Good morning, everyone, or this is the time it's recorded. I hope you're doing well. Obviously, you could have woken up in a better mood this Sunday morning. But before we even get started, we're kind of turning over a new leaf here on this page. So, talking to my mentor, at least I call him a mentor, consider him one, whether he views it that or not. Brooks Austin, if you haven't heard of him, he covers both national perspective in terms of every single team in the nation, kind of like the headlines, some teams that are underdogs, stuff like that, along with Georgia. Kind of talking to him was just like, well, now what? Football season's over, and I love basketball. I love baseball. I love all that stuff, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy covering both of those sports with Coach Kingston, Coach Staley, and Coach Paris. I'm gonna enjoy it a whole lot. But we got to talking and kind of he used the word to brand myself, if you will. And there's a lot of things I want to do differently. And this is going to sound like a New Year's resolution, but this one right here is the key one for me. And we're about to brand this differently where, to put this lightly, we're no longer going to be here to give you just the it's okays, but we're also not going to be here just to say, hey, we're going to make your feelings feel better. That's the new brand that you're about to get, and that's the rant you're about to get from here. I saw a lot of takes last night about Fire and Beamer. Saw a lot of takes last night that Spencer Rattler was never a good quarterback. I saw a lot of takes last night that Dow Loggins was this. I saw a lot of takes last night that Clayton White should be fired. Let me address all this. We're going on a rant, as we always do. We'll call it Rant Sunday, apparently. First and foremost, Shane Beamer is in year 3. Just finished year 3. If you want to continue down the path of cycling through head coaches every 3 to 4 years, be my guest. As long as you're okay with mediocrity always being the same thing. I know a lot of fans either don't want to hear this or just kind of fail to realize this. And it's nothing against you as a fan base. Because if there's two things that are true, one, South Carolina's fan base is as loyal and is as passionate and is as deserving for a winning football team as any other fan base in the country. That can be true, and it is true. On the other hand, your program is not where you think it is at. So going and hiring a new head coach after the third year and continuing to cycle through them is going to do absolutely nothing but put you right back in the same spot 3 years from now. It's that simple. If you can go find me a head coach that is willing to come to the University of South Carolina, again, nothing against you as a fan base. Look at the program's history. Outside of Steve Spurrier, you don't have much recent history of winning. And even then, it's not like he won all the time. He had a good, I believe it was 2, 3, maybe even 4 year stretch of winning football. And bravo to him. It took a coach like that who was able to be elite at the University of Florida to come just to get you to one SEC championship game, to get blown out. It took you that type of coach to get you to those 10-win seasons. What makes you think you're going to cycle through coaches every 3 years just to continue to do this and expect 10-win seasons? Now, I get it. Some of you aren't expecting 10-win seasons. You just want to have a winning record, and you deserve it. No one's telling you you don't. No one's telling you that this football team that you watched this year is deserving of any kind of sympathy, because they're not. I would tell you that to anyone. There were a lot of things that went wrong this season. We can talk about injuries, because as much as some of you don't want to talk about it, it is a huge concern when you lose 6 scholarship offensive linemen on the season. Not even necessarily on the season, but you're losing most of them before game 1. We can talk about the miscues on the defense for the first 2 months of the year. They couldn't stop a cold. We could talk about the offense in the last month became the most anemic offense in the nation. We can talk about a lot of different things, but the thing that you have to grasp is firing someone because you don't get your way will never lead to success at the University of South Carolina. You're nowhere near the top, even in the SEC and NIL. You're nowhere near the top in a winning program tradition. You were left with a program that was left in complete crap from Spurrier going down to Muschamp. Muschamp left it even in an even more worse predicament. What do you expect? Do you expect a winning season by year 3? Absolutely, and you should expect that, because if not, that's just a loser mentality. I'm not telling you to not expect to win at least 6 games and go bowling. I'm not, because you should have. You should have beat Florida. You should have beaten Texas A&M, but your offense couldn't score. You should have beat the University of Clemson because they didn't score a single offensive touchdown at home in Williams-Brice Stadium, and you only mustered 7 points. So all this to tell you, if you want to keep cycling through this and you want to go find you another head coach, do it. In 3 years, you're going to be right back where you started, right here, doing the same thing, having the same discussions. So why don't we sit back a little bit, be mad, be pissed, be upset that your football team is 5-7, because you should be, because you deserve better. But let's talk about a plan. Let's actually figure out, well, how can we build this? It all starts with you need to keep Shane Beamer here. Now, this is the most important offseason of Shane Beamer's head coaching career, in my opinion. I said it was going to be like 2-3 weeks into the season when the defense couldn't really stop anybody. Now, when I say this with the utmost respect. I think there are positions on this staff that need change. I'm not going into it. I'm sure the fans have their own picks of what needs to happen and what needs to change. I think there are positional coaching staffs that need changes, and you got to go get better. I do. Now, in that same breath, I think there needs to be a change in this staff. But I think your coordinators are fine. Now, a lot of people aren't going to be happy with that. No, Clayton White needs to go. His job shouldn't be saved just because of the final month of the season. And okay, I'm fine with that. Don't disagree. Go find you a defensive coordinator right now that's going to be able to do the same thing. And then, by the way, you're asking him to you got to go find one that fits you and your talent and the depth that you have. I know we want to ignore the fact that you do not have SEC depth. I know it hates to hear it, and I hate talking about like that for the University of South Carolina, but my friends, they just don't. They don't have depth in the trenches where you need them. They don't have depth in the secondary. They don't have good depth at receiver. They don't have good depth, period. That doesn't mean you don't have talent, because you have talent in the one deep, but you don't have consistent depth. So go find you a different coach to solve that issue, and then wonder why you're in the same exact position next season. Changing coaches does not always work. Now, are there coaches that need to be moved on from? Absolutely. I agree. But I'm telling you, from my perspective, from just watching from an outsider's view, because I'm not here to advocate Shane Beamer. I'm not here to advocate the fans. I told you, we're rebranding around here. This is something, we're just going to talk football. We're no longer caring about feelings. We're no longer trying to, I've never sugarcoated it for you, but we're just going to talk, and we're going to talk ball, and you're going to hear it just blatant. And there's no hiding behind any wall. Here it is. So if you want to continue to just be this, continue to fire and hire coaches every 2 to 3 years, by all means do it. There's nothing stopping the fan base from begging and just cheering and hoping that coaches get fired. Some should. Satterfield should have gotten fired. Prior to this last month, I think you should have moved on from Clayton White, but I think he's done enough to save his job. So that opening rant is as simple as this. You got to give it time. Do you have to enjoy that time? Absolutely not. You don't. Do you have to support it and be there and pay for tickets? No, you don't. But if you want to ever have success, you have to give it time. Nothing great was built overnight. And you have to understand where your football program is. It's as simple as that. Should they win 6 games a year? Yeah. Not going to win 6 games a year scheduling the schedules that you have. Luckily, next year you've got at least 3 non-conference teams that are at least teams that you're not playing the North Carolinas of the world. You're not going out and playing I can't remember who else y'all scheduled in the past couple of years, but you have winnable games now finally, so you can get to at least 4 or 5 wins easily next season. So just got to upset someone or two. But here's my thing and my plan, if you will. For me, I think a coach gets 5 years. The first 3 years is all about the coach getting his guys in and then making the decisions necessary to go ahead and move for year 4 and 5. Year 4 and 5, if you cannot adjust, if you cannot grow, and you have shown no signs of improvement by year 5, you should be gone. In a program like this, I mean, heck, there's people at Ohio State that want Ryan Day gone, and it's absolutely absurd because a fan base like South Carolina would die to have that. At least I think they would. To have a coach that can win you 10 games a year or 11 games a year and compete for a conference championship every single year, you die for it. And you can get there, but it's going to take time. So for me, this is the most important offseason of Shane Beamer's career. Now, does he have to win next year? I think he does. I don't think you can have another 5-7 season or a 4-8 season and still expect a non-hot seat, if you will. But for me, it's always been 5 years, whether it's been South Carolina, whether it's been Georgia, wherever. You have to be given time to get your guys in. And this is the best recruiting class, if I'm not mistaken, that Shane Beamer has had in his 3-year tenure. So build off of that. Continue to bring those freshmen in. Let them play. Biggest thing, let them play. Establish depth, hit the portal, and make good hires. I told you this, and we've talked about this. When you aren't a coach that necessarily is attached to one side of the game, you have to be essentially, for lack of a better term, a great CEO. You have to make the great hires. And it's time for Shane Beamer to do that. Now, moving on to the offense. And then I promise you, we will talk about the football game. It's been lost again in translation throughout. Apologize about that. Had to read that text. It's been lost in translation over on X. That apparently some may think that I think the offensive line is the only reason you lost this game. And it's not. Y'all, there are so many factors the reason why you lost this game. The backwards pass that resulted in a fumble. You had at least 5 or 6 drop passes, contested passes, which your head coach said they expected that was going to happen because they are that good defensively, which is also what we put over on X. Because here, again, we take our L's and we take our W's. I'm taking my L. I said Spencer Rattler was going to have a game and South Carolina was going to win 31-17 because I thought they were going to be able to have success. Did not think this offensive line was going to get dragged as much as they did. And they did. They absolutely did. So now we take that L. We move on from that. And we move on from the fact that I told you on X on Wednesday or Thursday, this Clemson defense is scary. They stop what you do best. And God almighty, they did. And they did it perfectly almost. And we're going to watch the offensive film and the defensive film still. And I still encourage you to actually come and watch it. And let's see what happened. Because from my perspective, it wasn't just one aspect of the game. We can talk about the play calling. We can talk about the offensive line. We can talk about the drops. Spencer Rattler missed throws. It's as simple as that. Spencer Rattler's missed some throws. I love Spencer Rattler to death. And I think he would tell you the same exact thing. He missed some big throws. Your whole offense was terrible. We're rebranding. It was terrible last night. There is no other way around it. So how do you get better? We can either sit here and complain and go hire a new offensive coordinator, which again, good luck. I know you wanted to hire the one at Clemson that couldn't score a single offensive touchdown against your defense. I know you want to probably go out and hire this top-notch OC and expect him to come to the University of South Carolina, which again, reality check. I love you guys. Not happening. So again, we can either sit here and complain and fire coaches every time we don't get our way, or we find solutions. Solution number one, go get the portal. And not just portal players just to bring guys in. I mean good quality SEC starters and depth. You need offensive linemen. You need receivers. I think Juice Wells, assuming he comes back to the University of South Carolina, is a huge addition. Harbor has still got a ways to go. And I know this fan base wanted him, and I think some of you are finally realizing he has work that has to be done. He still has to evolve into the receiver that he can be. He still has time. He's got to take that time, and you have to allow it. So offensive line, receivers, go get them. You need to be able to have not only quality starters, but quality depth. It's that simple. Same thing on the defensive side of the football. You need to have good quality starters and depth. And it all starts in the trenches, and it always will. If you don't have a good offensive line and you don't have a good defensive line, you're not going to have a good season. Had someone try to compare an NFL team to a University of South Carolina team, saying that you can scheme around bad offense, like Joe Burrow and the Bengals did when they went into the playoffs and got into the Super Bowl, as if NFL linemen aren't serviceable enough to where you can at least get something. Like Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, Jamar Chase. Like you have that same type of roster, which you don't. Gotta stop. You should be upset. No one's telling you not to be. No one's not telling you to be mad and frustrated because you should be. But we can either go find solutions or we can continue to fire people and then wonder why we're stuck in the same exact cycle. It's that simple. The offense played horrible last night from top to bottom. Nobody played good. Xavier Legette played good. Mario Anderson did his best to play good. Outside of that, it was a wash. Let's talk about this football game, though. Defense did extremely good. They gave up rushing yards, which is going to happen in a 3-3-5. 1,000% of the time. But what the 3-3-5 did was hold Cade Klubnik to 15 to 27 for 50-something% completion percentage at 100 yards, with most of that 100 yards coming off that explosive play against Kilgore, where if he gets his head turned around in time, maybe that even happen. Again, something I'm curious, something I wish I could ask the coaching staff questions. Are we taught to play man or are we taught to play ball? Because Nicky Minwari, from my perspective, in the beginning of the season, was playing the man and not the ball. This back half, he's been playing the ball, and he's got interceptions. So is it a player thing? Is it an execution thing? Or is it a coach thing? So there's questions that I wish could be asked, but they just can't be answered. Not right now, at least. Hopefully one day yours truly will have the chance to ask those questions like that. But defense played tremendous. You were always going to bend, but not – you were always going to have to play a bend but not break in a 3-3-5 defense, which suits your talent. Because Bam Martin Scott, my apologies, played a heck of a game, had 10 tackles. Debo Williams had 11 tackles. That means you were doing what you needed to do. You got stops. You held them. I think the defense gave up 6 points. And it's not even fair to say that, in my opinion, because let's go through. 7 points was the fumble recovery. And then 3 points, you should have had an interception, so those points should have never happened. So that's on the defense. I'll give you that. Then there was a short field where bad play calling, bad execution, and not knowing when to just go down instead of taking a 10-yard loss on a run killed you, followed by a bad punt, which put them at the 45, which I don't think it's fair to Kroger to say it was a bad punt when you're pinned in the back of your end zone. So they started on the 43-yard line of South Carolina and held them to 3 points. So I would put that on the offense as well. So of the 16 points, 6 of them belong to the defense. 10 of them belong to the offense, in my opinion. This Clemson team did not beat you on offense, on defense. You just kept shooting yourselves in the foot on offense. And again, it's not just one position group. It's from top to bottom. Need to be changes. There need to be changes. And that's just as simple as it is. As much as people don't want to hear it, the firing solution ain't it. Let me see a Dow Loggins offensive coordinator and play calling with a healthy offensive line. Let me see Dow Loggins with a receiving core outside of just Xavier Legette. Because we can talk about this as much as we want, and I respect every single one of those dudes out there on the field because there's a reason they are there and why I'm here. There's a reason why I never made it past college. I mean, there's a reason why. And it's because they're there for a reason. But Xavier Legette was the only offense from this receiving group that was consistent all year long. Hard to win football games like that. Hard to win football games with an offensive line that's not healthy and cannot establish any type of rhythm, which is not an excuse to pass 3 games because you've had the same exact offensive line for the past 3 games. Only difference is Jacksonville State and Vanderbilt, they're not Kentucky and they're not Clemson. For sure they're not Clemson. I think Clemson's the best front 7 you played all year. And I know Georgia fans, if they watch this, are going to jump down my throat, but I think they are. Clemson didn't lose 4 games because of their defense, ladies and gentlemen. They lost it because their offense is not consistent, and they showed you that last night. So with all that being said, we told you here that Clemson's defense was going to be scary. They have the ability to stop what you're good at, and they did. You were going to have success running the ball. You did. You were going to have to hit on explosive plays. You did. Offensively, you did absolutely nothing right. I'm not the only one that thinks that. I'm sure the fans think it. I know the players think it. I know the coaches think it. But again, the story of this whole entire post-game show is this. You're not where you want to be. You deserve better. No one's telling you don't. Arguably the most passionate fan base and the most deserving fan base for just a winning football team. But if you don't want to continue this cycle every 2 to 3 years, you've got to fight through this and hope that there's green pastures on the other side. Because I can't guarantee you that Shane Beamer is going to turn it around and make you a 9-10 win team by 2024, 2025. 2024 is a rough schedule. At Bama, I think you're at Texas. You have LSU. You have Ole Miss. It's going to be rough. I mean, you have just as rough as a schedule last year or next year than you did this year. Not telling you it's going to be all rays and sunshine. I'm not. You're going to have ups. You're going to have downs. But again, 5-year plan. Give them a chance. If you can't win by year 5, fine. Move on. Go find you another coach. But for now, I think you need to make changes somehow, positionally. If you want to make coordinator changes, I'm not going to hate it. Now, again, I don't think everything needs to be changed, but I think there are some things that need to be changed. You need to attack the portal, and you need to go get better. Not just with your starters, but your depth. Continue to recruit like you're doing, and make sure that you have something worth fighting for next year. That is all. We will see you Monday for offensive film, and then we will see you Tuesday for defensive film, and then that'll probably do it. We will never stop talking football around here, though. We will be going to 7-on-7 camps. There's a big one up in Myrtle Beach. I believe Cam Newton's 7-on-7 squad is going to be up there as well. We're going to talk football. We're branding ourselves like we told you, where we're not here just to do this to make you feel good and have feel-good stories, right? Not anymore. We're here to give you football. We're here to give you the takes. We're here to get recruits out there. We're going to be hitting different high schools during the spring. We're going to be hitting during different 7-on-7 camps. You are going to get as much content as I can humanly afford to. Driving to these places for you guys to get you every type of football. Show you the recruits that are out there. Show you anything and everything I can. We're rebranding. I hope you stick around for it. I thank you for all the support this season, and we hope to continue to grow here. Love every single one of you, even when we fight sometimes. Have a blessed one. We'll see you next time.